Well, welcome on into, I guess, is the Ryan Ripken Show channel. The Ryan Ripken Show, the normal show, is going to be tomorrow, Mondays and Thursdays. But guys, honestly, I needed help, so I wanted to ask you guys first. Got a new Wi-Fi. We're under construction, so I thought, hell, if I'm going to test the Wi-Fi, why don't I answer some of your trade deadline questions, right? Because it is buzzing. And Zach is helping me behind the scenes, and actually, I'll bring Zach on here for a second. Hey, Zach.
How's it going? Little testing the Wi-Fi, so we had to hop on,
We had to hop on. And look, this is just specifically, we're just going to hop on, and this is for all of you. So if you're jumping into the channel, if you are part of the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. If you're not a part of the, if you're part of the channel, we appreciate you. If you're not, hit that like and subscribe button. But we're testing things out here. So far, it seems good. Laura, appreciate it. Honestly, if I could tell you how the Wi-Fi situation started, where it's gotten to, Zach,
Yeah, it's been an interesting road. I'm just glad we hopefully don't have to deal with any more day of the show getting emails that, hey, they're testing Wi-Fi and it's going to be down for the entire day. So
yeah, exactly. We're just trying to get this right because when we do have a deadline special that's going to come up on Tuesday, we want to make sure that we are spot on. And plus, we got so much more planned here in studio. But enough talking. Let's get to some questions, Zach. And actually, I'll need your help looking up some of these questions and go from there. So I think the first thing that people were talking about, I'll make myself bigger here for a second. Hey, now. All right, the Jorge Mateo, it's still very to the vest, right? The last time I checked, Zach, correct?
Yeah, it's still results on the original X-ray were negative, but they did say, and they were very transparent last night, that that's good news. But at the same time, the MRI is what is going to show kind of everything that happened. I'm no doctor. All I know is I don't think the arm bends like that. So I'm optimistic. I just hope he's okay. Biggest thing. I don't expect to see him in the lineup anytime soon, but there is no clear report yet on how the MRI is that they're getting done.
Yeah, I mean, look, being around the game, I can tell you the elbow doesn't bend that way, but just watching it, you can just use your own eyes. And regardless of it, it's going to be perfect scenario here for Mateo. You're saying, well, it's just an extent or a hyperextension, no ligament damage, but it's going to take a little bit of time. That's the best case scenario. But I think there's going to be a little bit more than that, Zach. Unfortunately, we'll wait to see what comes out here, but that's best case scenario. And if it is, that just means he's going to miss time. I fully expect Mateo to be sitting, and just the question is going to be, is Connor Norby going to get the call up? You know, he's there, he's ready. So we'll see what happens there. And Wolverine, I see you. Appreciate you as always. Glad that you love the channel. We got a lot building with the channel, by the way. So, yes, we're very honed in on baseball season, the deadline. Why? You guys love it, but people are all drawn to baseball. But when football season comes around, you thought we had all this baseball content. Wait until the fall where it's really going to get spicy, and we have some more events that are popping up here. And then, as always, D. Porter, appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you as always, D. Porter.
Hey, Rip, I'm part of the Plain Jane crew. Plain hot dogs, cheese pizza, vanilla ice cream, etc. Hey, look, I actually like my toppings on my pizza and ice cream. Wow, I used to eat like half a pint gallon. That's for a different time. But yeah, plain dog, D. Porter. You can't, if you truly like a plain dog, which I appreciate. Let's Zach, where should we start with this? I'll let you kind of, we'll pick.
Actually, I feel like the first one is I want to answer Derek's question here because I feel like actually on this channel we have talked about this being a concern, and we've asked other guys about who we've had on. So Derek is saying, why is no one talking about Scooball's injury history and the fact he's never pitched 150 innings in a season? And Rip, I'll let you take it away, but it is a great question we've talked about. It should be concerning. That's not something that if you're a guy like Mike Elias, that's something that you have to consider in honesty, probably in my opinion, a reason why they won't give up a Jackson Holiday for a Tariq Skubal.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing right here when you're looking at trade packages, and we could go through every single team of what teams could give, right? But for the Orioles specifically, and if you're the Tigers, your best chip the best that you have to offer is the guy that is having a Cy Young season in Skubal. No doubt about it. But this is the concern is that, yeah, there has been some arm injuries. But, Zach, we're in a different time where, and even Tyler Glasnow's talked about it, pitchers are okay, a lot of them understanding that velocity is the king here, and you got to ride it, and that's just where we are. We're not in the same era that it was years ago where being able to pitch and see how long you could pitch and there wasn't as many of these injuries. It's just a different time. So you have to factor that in. I think, though, Skubal, at least if we're comparing two pitchers between Garrett Crochet and Skubal, is that Crochet is going to go to the bullpen. Like, it's going to happen here in the second half, whether he's traded or not. They're going to very limited, and especially if he doesn't get traded, you're not going to push Crochet whatsoever. Now, for Skubal, though, you trade for him, you're hoping that he's a part of that situation. And for those of saying, yeah, you got to give up a lot of pieces, the team control is unbelievable. But that's still, when you look at the Soto trade for Blockbuster, you're not going to get that value. You're not going to get that because a position player that is going to be great for 12 more years hitting the baseball. Everyone's seen Juan Soto in New York. The dude is going to be a stud moving forward. Skubal, though, the concern is the longevity of his career with giving up some of these prospects that you think can be hopefully Soto-esque as far as being great hitters in the future. So that's what I have on that. Anything you want to add there, Zach?
No, I think you hit on the head. There's a lot of risk, but at this point, obviously, we all talk about Crochet. He's not going to finish this year in the starting rotation. It's just I don't think it's physically possible. So yeah, for guys like that. The next one, actually, want to bring up Eli's question. We're going to get to others, but Rip, you actually did a breakdown on this, so I think you'll be able to talk about this a little bit better. Only concern with Erick Fedde of the Chicago White Sox. He is on a 2-year deal, so the Orioles would have him this year and next year. Is some people are concerned it's only a fluke. Eli says he thinks he's actually legit. And Rip, you want to give us why you think Erick Fedde is actually legit this year?
Eli, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you, brother. This is the thing right now. Erick Fedde, with all pitchers, and actually it's a good lesson for everybody. I think we always have the idea that we're going to be an unbelievable player. We're going to get to where we want in our job. Like, hell, I want to use this comparison for real life. What we're building here with the Ryan Ripken Show and Ryan Ripken Media, yeah, we have aspirations and we think that we can go somewhere, but it takes time. That's the key here, time. For pitchers, not every one of them is going to have the superstar breakout from the beginning. And sometimes when you have that superstar breakout, it won't last. So let me use some examples here. Matt Harvey might be the best example. New York Mets came out of the gate. He was Batman in Gotham City, whatever the hell they were referring to, Batman. Electric. And then after the Dark Knight, that's what it was. That's what it was. After the injury, wasn't the same guy. Now he's able to have a career, but you saw that change. On the flip side, for a lot of pitchers, just like with hitters, you can figure yourself out if you have the right opportunity and you get a second chance. So for Fedde, when he was up in the bigs, and for people that want to know, he got drafted by the Nats, had Tommy John, roommate of Ryan Ripken during instructional league in 2014. But Fedde needed to reinvent himself. He got to the big leagues with his talent, but didn't know how to pitch consistently enough. And then he lost that. And then when he went over and got out of baseball in the U.S., he even said he had to find that bulldog mentality, and he had to learn how to pitch. Because of the Tommy John, he used to throw, I think, like 95, 97. Obviously, now you see him throw 93, but the difference is he's learned how to pitch. He has an unbelievable changeup. He's got great movement with his two-seam fastball, and now he's able to keep hitters off balance. So factor in also that he's learned a lot of things experience-wise. I think Erick Fedde, this is not a fluke. I think that Fedde is going to be very solid. Now, could this be his best year that he has as a pro? It could. He's having a phenomenal year. But this is a guy that I think you would really look at because of the team control for next year, because it's cheaper, and you're not going to have to give as much up. And you know for a fact you are going to be missing Wells, Bradish and, means obviously contracts up, but you're going to be missing guys to start. Does that make sense? So, Eli, I appreciate that. I think that the Orioles, I'm still with it. I'm bullish. He needs to be a guy that they should go after in Chicago.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I've been saying it pretty much since right around the time you did that breakdown, even a little before. We were talking about Eric Fedde was kind of that guy that you just felt like he feels like a move the Orioles go make. A move similar to Jordan Montgomery, which we've talked about a bunch of times. It's not always the massive deadline move that makes the biggest impact. Rangers last year went out, got Scherzer and Montgomery. Everyone's like, oh, Scherzer, boom, there's your bulldog. Go win the World Series with him. Misses a lot of time. Steps in and goes and takes him to the promised land. None other than Jordan Montgomery, the quote-unquote throw-in for their trade deadline last year. It was the last little, okay, we'll take Jordan Montgomery too. This next one I wanted to bring up was appreciated Vernon. He said, do you really think the Orioles will trade Mountcastle or Mullins? And we actually discussed this a little bit last night. So if you guys want to go check out that video, it is also out there, but we will hit on it again. So Ryan, what are your thoughts on the whole situation?
Well, let me get a sip of water for a second.
Yeah. And
we're golden. Go ahead. What you got?
I was going to say, I think we are both under kind of the same thought process of, hey, if you're not going to get back pieces that are going to help you win now, it doesn't make sense. You don't just go and trade a Mullins or a Mountcastle for prospects that you might not see for another year or two. A lot of people say, oh, trade Mountcastle because then Mayo just replaces him. We saw Jackson Holiday come up and struggle. We've seen Colton Cowser go through struggles. We've seen Jordan Westberg, Mr. Reliable, go through struggles. It's not a guarantee that these guys are going to come up and hit the cover off the ball. So it's hard for me unless you are getting you're acquiring some sort of talent to help this year, whether it is a move with the Mariners. A lot of people, that's where I feel like it's mostly linked to, especially for Mountcastle, is do you try to make a not one for one, but a swap with the Mariners of, hey, you guys have a lot of really good pitching and need hitting. We have a lot of really good hitting and we need pitching. Let's help me help you. That's where I could see Mountcastle. Obviously, there's been rumors about Cedric and the Phillies in contact with the Orioles, but kind of give us your thoughts there.
Yeah, you think about it, it'd be people helping people when they look at the Seattle Orioles. Oh, hey, help us fix a problem that we can help you fix your problem, right? But don't discredit Ryan Mountcastle, first and foremost here, by the way. The dude's still hitting 267. He's had, and the inkling for me is when he had to miss some of those games, and we talked about what happened with vertigo last year, when he's a little bit off or something's wrong, that's really what's held back Ryan Mountcastle. When he's healthy and things are right, he figures it out, right? So I want to point with that with Ryan Mountcastle. It makes sense on that with the Mariners. If you're going to talk about a team like Seattle, because their strength is their starting staff. Now they have to get over that mindset of we need to go get a bat. What's that value look like? But if I'm the Orioles, it's hard for me to move off a guy like Mountcastle to start. This is where the conversation goes because I think he's such a great pure hitter. And again, if you do move him, then I'm not saying that I do not want them to do that. If you do, then a guy like Kobe Mayo that you have to bring up would have to get regular bats. But you just brought this up, Zach. Mm-hmm. What are the teams so far that have gone on these kind of runs? Let's look at the two teams. Actually, there's three teams last year. One of them went to the World Series, which was the outlier, but the other three teams in the championship series, the Rangers, the Astros, and the Philadelphia Phillies. Mm-hmm. How much experience is in their lineup?
A lot.
And that proponent of guys that are more veteran-esque, screw if they've been in the playoffs a ton. I'm not going to take that part out.
I mean, Corey Seager, coming over, people were all like, oh, Corey Seager's bad because he had a rough time, coming over from LA. Corey Seager was a main reason, obviously Adolis got all the hype because of his massive home runs that he was hitting, but Corey Seager. Corey Seager, they acquired him because of that experience of he had already won a World Series, and he helped them get there last year.
Yeah, I mean, dude's a stud. Corey Seager is not just one of the best shortstops in baseball. You could argue before this season he was the guy you looked at before the season. He's one of the best players in baseball. He is. Even when he's struggling, pedigree, Astros pedigree. So my point with Ryan Mountcastle, experience matters. And I know that everyone's looking at last year. Not a lot of the team had postseason experience, but you want guys that have been around with that. So with the young players, if you trade a guy like Ryan Mountcastle, and then let's move to Cedric Mullins here. Mm-hmm. The Philadelphia Phillies were apparently a team that was inquiring about Cedric Mullins, according to reports. Why would they do that? They like what he brings to the game. He's a veteran guy that, yes, it hasn't necessarily been the offensive year that he would hope. Still a lot of baseball left. But the Phillies are calling. The best team in baseball is inquiring about a guy because they believe in the value that Cedric has. You can't discredit some of the veteran guys. I love the young talent. I think that they are studs. And at some point, you got to let it ride and get out there. But if that's the case, then Birdland or any fans of any teams, you got to live with the fact that your young guys are going to struggle.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that you got to hold on to right here. So that's why I just have a hard time seeing Mountie go unless it is such a good pitching deal that they get back. And same with Cedric, because if they bring back prospects, you're back at the same problem for me. And that's something that in 2024, the Orioles don't necessarily need to do.
Yeah. And kind of I want to stick on the bat side right now before we head back over to the pitching, because I feel like that's going to be a majority of this. Matt said concerned about the O's struggles against left-handed pitching. Is another right-handed bat needed? And we also, it's funny enough, talked about this last night as well. This is where I don't think it happens through a trade. I think this is where they want to see if a Connor Norby, if a Kobe Mayo can come and step up and be that solution. I think Connor Norby, in a lot of ways, if he is here after the deadline, finds himself somewhere in the outfield in Baltimore. I think he's going to take over, especially if Jorge is done for a little bit. He becomes that super utility guy. You will see him at second base one day. The next day he'll be in left field. Then he'll be in right field. He'll be back at second. He'll be at shortstop. Like, he will be everywhere. So I think he's kind of one of those guys. Obviously, Kobe Mayo, right-handed bat with all the potential in the world. I think you see it more from those guys than necessarily a trade.
Yeah, I think that the right-handed bat or whatever the Orioles are going to do, it's in-house. Like, that's just it is in-house. And in some cases for the Orioles, when they face lefties, it's just the overall at bats. You can say it's the lineups, the production. For me, it's just a little bit more shocking because I just think that the underperforming part of it, the talent's there for them to have success against left-handed pitchers already. Like, it is. So I don't understand fully. Part of that is situational hitting, doing the little things a little bit better. When they're red hot, they can, go against anybody, right? Lefty or righty. But I do think, Zach, to your point, I think that bat's in house. I think that unless there's a bat and I saw someone mention Brent Rooker, and I like Brent Rooker a lot.
Friend of the program, but the Orioles value their DH spot. I don't know if they're going to be willing to say, hey, Brent, come in here. We don't really want you to play in the outfield. We'll have you DH. I don't see that being a fit for that. I like Brent's game. I think he's going to help a team. He should get traded to a contender. I hope not to the Yankees. I hope he goes somewhere else. If I'm the Yankees, I'm calling the Oakland A's to get Brent Rooker. I would go get Brent Rooker 1,000%. But for the Orioles, they just got to find a way to give some of their. If it is a guy, like I keep looking, I think Kobe Mayo, I think there's only so much time you can keep him down there. And then you got to give him some shots. But yeah, I just don't think the problem's still at hand if you make a trade for a bat and it's a crowded room. If Mountie's staying in Baltimore, he needs his at-bats. But if he's not, then I would give it to one of your younger guys instead of going out and getting a rental of a veteran bat. That's just my opinion on the situation. So what else do we got, Zach? Yeah. And here we go. The next
Here
one,
we
actually,
go.
our friends over at the 3-0 Take. I wanted to get these guys on real fast. Thoughts on the debate of giving away unproven prospects versus acquiring proven talent. Everybody's so quick to hang on to prospects, but there's never a guarantee they pan out. Proven talent is proven. And I'm assuming this is in regards to the crochet, the screwball, and hanging on to guys like Mayo, hanging on to guys like Basayo, like Holiday, and so on.
Well, Kyle and Nate, thank you. And you know what? If you guys ever want me to come back on, just send me a link properly, right? Love those guys. They're great. If you guys want some very in-depth and fun conversations, 3-0 Take podcast is amazing. Those guys are friends of the show, friends of the program. All right. So it's a very interesting topic, and some teams feel very differently, right? And we can go back to the San Diego Padres. They valued the talent of Juan Soto, and they were very well okay with giving up the unproven prospects of CJ Abrams, of James Wood, of Mackenzie Gore. And I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the other two that are on the cusp right now. They got a really great package, right? Doesn't always work out that way, because then we can look back to Baltimore here in the Manny Machado trade. The only one that's left from that trade is Dean Kramer. The other one, the big one, Yusniel Diaz, was the big name, big chip prospect. Didn't work out. So the reality is you don't know. You just don't know what's going to happen. But if you are ready to make that sacrifice, then by all means. And for the Padres, that team was built all in. The way that they constructed their team, what they had, screw it, we're going for it, we're spending. But as everyone just saw, spending and going for it didn't necessarily turn out to be success. And so for a team like Baltimore, I think between their untouchable guys, if we're going to say Basayo, Mayo, Jackson, at least two of them are going to be multi-year all-stars in my mind. That's my opinion. And I could be wrong. But if that's the case, is that worth chasing one World Series? Some would say yes. Some would say yes. And I don't blame them for that. But that's something you have to have into consideration. You know, if this was trying to think about, and this is such a hard debate here because of all the injuries. I don't even know what ace pitcher out there that you'd feel like Corbin Burns actually is probably the best case, and the Orioles just got him.
Yeah.
That you would say I would trade if Corbin Burns was available at the deadline for a team, like if the Orioles last year. Yeah. He knocking on wood, stayed healthy, consistent. It's a gamble. That's my take on it. But I don't blame going to chase a World Series because it's been 41 years in Baltimore. Birdland, I feel you. I get it. Ironically, though, for Yankees fans, I appreciate Yankees fans. Yankees haven't had a lot of success either in the last 15 years. So winning's very hard, even when you are expecting to do that on a consistent basis. It's very, very challenging. That's why people hate the Astros, Zach, but damn it. You say they're cheaters. I don't care. At some point, that team just finds a way to get to the ALCS every single year. It's unbelievable.
Every single year. And I want to bring up this because we've talked about the top prospects. We've gone through all of them. I feel like that's the big thing. But Paul says, outside of the usual suspects at Norfolk and Bowie that get mentioned in trade speculation, do you see any players like Bradfield and some of the young Latin players at Delmarva being made available? And it is kind of, to Paul's point, you see it with Sam Basayo, that first wave of the international signing period where Mike Elias really started, we're starting to see them move through the minor leagues, and the Orioles' depth is getting even stronger in the lower levels. And you've talked about before, we had Jim Duquette on a few days ago, and he even said it. There was a trade potentially all the way back when the Orioles were trying to trade Zach Britton, where they were looking with the Houston Astros, and a young Framber Valdez was on the table potentially at the time. Obviously, we saw how that turned out for the Astros, and Valdez is still one of the best pitchers in the league. But I think it is smart for teams to go looking for those maybe less proven prospects, maybe not as highly touted, hoping that, hey, these are lottery tickets that could potentially, we buy, it's low, you're buying low, and hopefully they can go out and become something like a Valdez does.
Yeah, and it's a great point here. And also, before I give this answer here, appreciate you guys tuning in. If you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. This is just an impromptu welcome to the Ryan Ripken Show. Checking their damn Wi-Fi, because that's why we're doing this. But it's a busy time, so we said, sure, let's hop on and answer your questions, because there are so many of them. We're not going to get to all of them, but we're going to do our best to answer quite a bit of the topics that are on your mind. But we do our live shows every Monday and Thursday. So that means we're going to be tipping off tomorrow, talking a lot about the trade deadline. And as we move towards the fall here, we are based in the Baltimore region. We're going to cover a lot of things in Maryland. We're going to cover football season, but make no mistake, we're going to be really dialed into this baseball season until it ends here, hopefully in October, with the Orioles winning the World Series for this fan base. All right. I think the point I wanted to make is people can when I was trying to explain that the Orioles have so much depth in their system, the big names get all the attention, but the other names that go under the radar, like I know last year, I think it was Nathan Showalter got traded, and he was one of Zach Showalter. Sorry, how could I forget? Zach's such a great name, right? So I got so many texts from people going like, damn, I hated that he was in the deal. And he was in the Gulf Coast in Florida, or the Complex League, whatever it's called now. And so you can see potential of guys and coaches.
Prieto.
What?
Him and Prieto. Those were the two lower guys that, if you talk to people who cover the sport, cover minors, were like, that was tough for the Orioles to give up.
Yeah, and I mean, at some point in how the old system was for the Orioles, when they were really, really just one of the best teams in baseball back in the 80s, 70s, like their farm system was incredible too. And if you didn't play in the bigs and you were good enough, you were going to go get traded somewhere else. It's the same concept, but it's really comes down to your scouting department of finding players. And so even though they might not be ranked high on the prospect list, does not mean that they aren't great players. I mean, Josh Hader wasn't a top 5 prospect. Josh Hader was a 19th round pick out of high school. He was drafted 1 round ahead of me in high school. And then Josh went from throwing 85 to 87, whatever it was, to 97. And then he got traded in the LJ Hose deal where they wanted him to be a starter, but you saw his ascension. It kept rising and rising to eventually to where he's at. There's a lot of players that fall through the cracks, and they're not always top prospects, but they turn out to be incredible, incredible players. So
John Means.
Means.
Think of all the guys that weren't highly touted prospects that became these huge, parts of the Orioles, throughout even like Trey Mancini's and stuff. Obviously, eventually they rose the ranks, but these were not guys when they were in low A, single A, that people were like, oh, these people need to speed through to get to the majors because they're going to help. It was like, hey, they could be decent.
Yeah.
They could be decent. And then what do? They just kept improving. They kept improving, and once they got to the majors, they continued to keep improving.
Yeah, and so that's why a lot of these scouts, when they're going to the lower levels, especially if you're a team that's saying, you know what, we're a couple years away, but there's a player down here. Who was another player we talked to Jim Duquette about? I actually brought this up. It's a player that the Chicago White Sox were like, you know what, we need to go get a pitcher. We need to get a veteran pitcher. Let's give up this prospect. We think he's okay. And who was the pitcher that got given up?
James Shields, and they gave up who, Rip?
Fernando Tatis Jr. Before Fernando Tatis Jr. ascended in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
So context here, teams are looking for who they are just bullish on, and every single team has that, and that's why they're scouting each level of the Orioles organization, because the team is loaded with great prospects. And that's not just with Baltimore. A lot of other teams, like I'll tell you what, playing the Yankees organization all those years, the Yanks just had pitchers out of nowhere. You might have not known their name coming through the system, but then they get to the big leagues, you're like, where do they get these guys? A lot of teams have those. So a lot of teams are aware of that. All right, what we got next?
Next up, we're going to Justin.
Hey, now.
So this was while we were talking about Eric Fetty. So would you stop the rotation upgrades at Fetty, or does Suarez's performance yesterday make a second starter an imperative as well? Yeah, I think this is kind of an interesting this is kind of the argument that's been going on, I would say, for a few weeks now of, do the Orioles go and get one big guy? Do they try to go get two lesser guys? You know, how that plays out, we've yet to see. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that this was regardless of Suarez's situation. It's just the depth that you're looking at. I think the Orioles were always going to look at maybe two options at the starting rotation because you have two rookies in McDermott and Povich. You got Suarez, it's a great story, and he's pitched really well. But Suarez and Cole Irvin have the ability to go to the pen as well. They can be both. Like, those are the roles. I think that they're kicking the tires. So I think 1-2 is the look. That's personally for me. And I think for relievers, they're probably trying to think, could we add 2 or 3? And these are thoughts here. Excuse me. And then maybe one move gets done or maybe another move gets taken off the table. But you got to go in with the mindset of what could be the most we could acquire. So in that case, for me, I'm thinking the Orioles at most, they're looking at 2 starters. And if they're looking at most in the bullpen, they're looking at 3. Now, they could end up that they get 3 total players, 1 being a starter and 2 being relievers, right? So that's where I'm at with that. Justin, appreciate you as always. And I saw someone say about a Ryan Ripken, like all roommate squad. Corey Seager was apparently supposed to be my roommate at South Carolina freshman year, Zach, but he had the audacity to get drafted in the first round.
Yeah.
Pretty good player.
Turned out pretty well. Pretty good as well. And let's stick with the reliever talk while we're at it. Evanes Sports Cards, are Scott and Puck going to be on the plane ride back to Baltimore? They're both lefties with good strikeout numbers. Tanner Scott reunion, AJ Puck, 2 guys that are definitely going to be sought after. And isn't it funny? We talk about this all the time. Tanner Scott was a guy that couldn't necessarily put it all together in Baltimore. You see this all the time with relievers that can't put it together somewhere, and then they go elsewhere and they just take off. Example right now, Yanier Cano. Couldn't really put it together. Minnesota comes here, takes off. Even Jacob Webb. So I think that's something to consider when the Orioles make these quote-unquote bargain bin shopping moves, when they bring in a Birch Smith, a Vinny Natali, and then we've seen how that's worked out. So I'm not all for going all in on 2 big names for the bullpen, but I think one of these 2 would be incredible get and value for the Orioles.
Yeah, I mean, it's again talking about a player that found themselves, always had talent but couldn't put it together. It was Tanner Scott in Baltimore. Talented, electric arm. And yes, the walks for him can sometimes be an issue, but is his stuff as dominant for a left-handed reliever right now? Yeah, he is up there for a guy you want. And then for AJ Puck too, he's had some disappointments, but he's a very talented guy that I think he's going to get better and better if he stays healthy, right? Yeah. And that's the part of the evolution. That's what I was trying to say. You're not always a finished product when you get to the big leagues. AJ had a lot of expectations. So did Tanner, and they were they disappointed to many, but it's not because they didn't lack talent. It was because they just had to put it together, and they're putting it together. So I think those guys, yeah, those are definitely options. And I'm glad you brought that up though, Zach. This is the crapshoot of bullpens.
Yeah.
You really don't know. And bullpen relievers bounce around so much because it seems like every single year someone else is rising to the occasion, right? I mean, and it's rare when you have a bullpen where your 7, 8, 9 guys are so damn stout. I mean, Kansas City Royals, when they won it, their 3 was, I believe it was Soria. I think it was Soria. No, sorry, it was
No, it was Soria.
Was it Soria?
Yeah, and then it was
Holland, Wade, and Holland.
Yeah. Soria, Wade, and Holland.
Actually, no, it's not Soria. It's someone else that's going to bother the hell out of me because I remember watching that. I'm like, dude, that's a closer. But the point is, after that, those guys, that was their best years all put together in some cases, right? That was such an awesome stretch. It's hard to find that. So sometimes relievers just find themselves and they just, they ride that wave as long as they can. That's what's happening. That's who it was, Herrera. Yep, that's it. No, dude, that dude was disgusting. Oh my goodness. Holy shirts and pants. Wade Davis was great. And Greg Holland had an unbelievable splitter that I got to face him while he was rehabbing in AA. And I made very well sure that I would not get that splitter. I was swinging early. Thank God he threw a fastball. That's all I'm going to say. Thank God he threw a fastball. All right, let's go with more. Let's keep going.
Actually, I want to not necessarily trade talk, but Ryan says, will McDermott stay up if he pitches well? I think this is something a lot of people are kind of asking right now, and I don't know. I'm very intrigued by this because I'm not sure. We all kind of were under the assumption if Cade Povich pitched well in his first few starts, he would get the opportunity to continue. I'm not sure even if he pitches decent, if they keep Chase up, mostly just as a numbers game, trying to keep these guys, one, rested, and two, seeing what they have everywhere. But I would not be against if Chase McDermott pitches well tonight to see him get another opportunity, especially with how the starting rotation has been in the back end the past few times around. It doesn't hurt to see what you have.
Absolutely. And right now he's being brought up to try to give a little bit of flexibility and rest.
Yeah.
He's definitely ready to be equipped to pitch in the big leagues. Does he still need to work on things? Oh, hell yeah, everybody does. But this is more so of, you got to look at it. Would he supplant someone in the rotation? And that's really where going through it, Burns, Grayson, Dean, none of those guys are getting, taken out of their spots. And right now, so you're looking at it, you could ride the wave, but I'm not gonna hold my breath on it. I hope he goes out there and shoves. That's not me saying that. I think it's just to your point. The Orioles are going to try to maximize keeping arms fresh, and over time, if he pitches well, then you ride the hot hand. Then that's what it will become. And then obviously we're going to find out here if the Orioles do make a move. Watch the Orioles make a move right before I go on pregame radio tonight too, Zach, on 105.7 The Fan. Just kidding. I think they're probably. I think a first move will happen this weekend. That's my guess. Yeah. That is my guess about that. But I'm excited for McDermott. To me, nothing is more. I shouldn't say nothing's more. One of the coolest moments in all of sports is getting to see someone live out their dream. And for McDermott, that's what I'm so excited about. He's worked so damn hard to get to this point. And him and his family, this is a whole ordeal. It's special, man. Super special. So I'm excited for him.
Yeah, and I kind of like this question. Let's take it from a reverse, from a Jackson Holliday standpoint. What is the better fit for him if he were to be traded? Would it be in Detroit or Chicago? Me personally, I think Detroit is on the cusp of competing. And I think you add a Jackson Holliday to it, like you brought up, Tyler. First off, thank you for the donation. Really appreciate it. But as you brought up, Holliday, Green, Torkelson has been very disappointing, but they have a lot of guys coming up that I think in Detroit, it's starting to turn around. So I would be really, if he had to go somewhere and I was Jackson Holliday, I would prefer Detroit over Chicago right now.
Yeah, I think that Chicago has a lot of questions that they got to answer. And it's really going to be, the first one's going to be, are you going to build around your two franchise type players in Luis Robert and Garrett Crochet, or are you going to just blow it up and get as many prospects as you can and start from the ground up? So you got to figure that out first. So you're not getting Jackson Holliday unless you give up Crochet or Luis Robert. So I think that might answer that. I think Detroit would be a good spot for Jackson if he did go there. I think that Detroit is a team, and honestly, with the Javi Baez situation, they're going to need a shortstop, and he could get opportunities to play shortstop, but he's not going anywhere. I'm just telling you that. Not going anywhere. But that's the hypothetical. I think Detroit's a better spot. Detroit has some nice pieces. They had so many high pitching prospects over and over, and they've had some high picks, and they just haven't materialized fully yet. And they've started to spend, and that hasn't fully materialized yet. So also goes to show you draft high and you spend some money doesn't always mean success. I'm just saying. You got to do it right. You got to do it right. So hopefully that answers your question, Tyler. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I don't, like you said, I don't think Holiday gets traded. I think the Detroit Tigers start their conversation with Jackson Holiday for Tariq Skubal trade, and I think the Orioles are saying, no, Jackson Holiday is not available in a trade. So I think both teams just walk away. And actually, AJ Hinch, the Tigers manager yesterday, obviously this is manager talk. He's not going to say he wants them to sell. But he came out yesterday and said he wants to buy at the deadline. He said he hasn't talked to the GM yet about it, but he will soon. AJ, we are less than a week away. If you want to get your opinion out there to the GM, I would probably do it within the next few days because it's hard to buy after the deadline.
Yeah, typically it's hard to buy after the deadline. That's just what some have said. Rumors have been spread. Some will say, oh, mama. Well, actually, shouting out mamas, though. Shout out Kathy for Victoria. Appreciate you. Victoria, you've been one of our OGs from the beginning. But Kathy, how we doing? Hope you're doing well. Getting my stretches in at the same time here, Zach.
I like this question.
I actually was hoping you'd click on that one.
Yeah. Two questions. One, what are your projections on how many organizations will we be making trades with? One heavy trade partner, or will we be trading with multiple teams? I said before last night, I believe the Orioles make 2 trades and acquire 3 players. That's kind of just my prediction. I think they get 3 players at the trade deadline, and I think one of them is kind of a double dip scenario with the team. Ryan, I think you are kind of on the same page, but a little different, if you want to explain.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that the Orioles, if you can double dip, which again, do you frown upon double dipping when you're going there for a snack? Does it depend on the people in the room that, like, say it's a dip and you're getting some chips? Would you double dip if you take a bite?
Yeah, you can't double dip. But
well, what if it's with your family?
It depends. It really depends.
Exactly. If it's with my family, I think I would double dip. If it's close family, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they like me a little bit. So I think that's the option where you could then accomplish 2 goals with one team. But I think that the Orioles are just going to kick the tires on as many teams as possible because you need to. And right now, you got to figure out who wants to sell. And I think that you're hearing more reports. Chicago now for the longest time, and they're still in the hunt. They're 3.5, 4 games out of a wild card spot. They just said if they don't play better the rest of the week, they're most likely selling. But that's a team right now, just like a lot of other teams, they've got to make that same decision. And if that's the case, then another team's brought into play. And I think just for what the Orioles want value-wise, I think that you might have to go to different teams. Texas was the perfect one, but Texas isn't going to sell now because the Rangers are 4 games out.
Yep, Calvin just put this. I was going to pull up next. That did not help the Orioles at all. That was a team that had so many potential suitors on it. You talk about just in the bullpen, Kirby Yates, David Robinson. Then you go to the starting rotation, a Heaney, a Scherzer, a Eovaldi, even though they really never said he was available with his option for next year. But I think Eovaldi would have probably been the most sought-after guy in that group. That's 5 guys that the Orioles could potentially gone after, and now it's 0 because they're going for it. So,
yeah. And that's the part of it is Scherzer, when he was making the point, look, no pitcher is going to say they want to get traded, and he probably really likes it in Texas too. But they had a belief that they just got to hang around. They've hung around now, and they have life. They have life now. They are right in the mix. Now they're further out of the wild card than they are their division. And that was the biggest thing. Seattle's struggles opened up that door, no doubt about it. So that's one team that's got to make it, one team that looks like they're going to hunker down. But then you have a team like Detroit where they are a good amount out right now. They got a lot of games left against the Guardians and to make up ground, but it's a very, very tough uphill battle, and you got to think big picture, and you got to be realistic. That's why even, Zach, the Orioles made the moves they did in 2022, getting rid of Trey Mancini and Jorge Lopez, not because it felt good, but they were realistic. They're like, you know what? We think we can make the postseason still, but there's really good offers on the table that we can't refuse that can help us be in situations like the Orioles are right now, which over the last 2 years has been the best team in the regular season in the American League. So that's kind of how we're feeling it. I think someone said a lineup came out, so I can check that as well.
Yeah, so the Orioles lineup came out, and it is Henderson leading off, playing shortstop, Rutschman second, catching, Santander DHing and batting third, O'Hearn playing first, batting fourth, Kerstead in right field, batting fifth, Westberg playing second, batting sixth, Cowser in left field, batting seventh, Mullins in center, batting eighth, and Ramon Urias playing third, batting ninth. We have yet to have any word on Jorge Mateo and obviously Chase McDermott pitching. So I didn't see, if there was no word on Jorge, we weren't going to see Connor Norby because technically he's not on the team right now.
Yeah, but that has to be, I don't know if that's good or bad right now because you're right. There's no active or there's no roster move yet for that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
As we're talking, I'm trying to get the live updates here, but at the same time, if you guys see it, shout it out here. Yeah, I mean, if he's not on the roster, he can't be in the lineup.
Yeah,
and he's not on the roster right now, so he's not going to be in the lineup. But also, Ramon Urias had a really good series in Texas until the neck soreness, fully capable. Everyone's favorite player to hate on the Orioles. Okay. I don't know what to say about that. Yeah, the Orioles right now, I'm glad seeing Heston back in the lineup. That one I'm very happy about because I think that I just want to see him try to regain that feeling he was having before the IL stint because he was just on one. And the Orioles definitely could use that boost. No doubt about it. Ollie, come here. Ollie, come on. Ollie,
yeah, I'm interested to see what happens with Jorge because I really thought even if there were questions, they would just put him on an IL stint. Mm-hmm. If it was, I mean, it would shock me if there's no move made with Jorge. Just from what I saw last night, like I just don't know how a human can go out there and play baseball in the next 15 days after that happened. Hopefully for his sake, everything was avoided. Maybe it's just a little, he's going to be out for 2-3 days, would shock me, but it will be interesting.
Yeah. Hey, I got to do this in blue gold. I know I appreciate your emphasis on all caps nation. Also shout out Biggie in the, I think that's Notorious B.I.G. in there. But the thing is, look, if you're saying if all the players on this team were as good as you say they are, we would have no holes. No, but I think also when people hear the Orioles and people are complaining about the Orioles, this is still a team that is tied for the best record in the American League. So I'm not sitting here saying that the Orioles don't need to make moves and adjustments, but every team, even the Phillies that are probably the most well-constructed team, that's one of all the teams that you can say, well, they are the most put together. That's one team. But every team's going to have their ups and downs. I just think that people want to find more reasons. Like for Ramon Urias, you can't get on. I thought his position was to be, hey, sometimes we'll play you 3 days in the week. Sometimes we might not play you for 8 days or 8 games. And he's like, okay, I'll deal with it. That is not an easy role to give to a player, by the way. It's hard to do that. So I'm saying that has value in itself. I'm not saying that Ramon Urias is the answer for the team if Mateo's injured. All I'm saying is for what his role is, he fits his role just fine. You want to take it up with Brandon Hyde for making those decisions? By all means. You know what I mean? But Ramon's a guy, it's like, hey, I'll go out there and I'll go play. I'll go do it. And I'm okay with all the criticism. I'm okay with whatever. You need someone like that on your squad. You need a utility guy like that. That matters. So that's all I got to say about that.
I see Blue saying he just wants to see that here. You might just want to see these young kids play. I think we all do, but this is the tough spot about where the Orioles are in, and you have to compete. And when these young kids come up, you want them to play every day. And if they just replace Ramon Urias, who's not playing every day, it's hard to then where do you put him? Because you know these guys on the bench. We're okay with Ramon being on the bench because he's used to that right now. He has prepared himself to where he can come off the bench and still be productive and help this team. Whereas a Kobe Mayo or someone, we don't know if they sit 3 straight days, how they're going to come off the bench in the 8th inning and try to go hit, because they don't do that.
typically speaking, prospects that come up and don't play, it's hard when all you've done is play every day in the minor leagues. Top prospects. And I already know this answer, but no one ever wants to believe me, Zach, because sometimes could I be full of shit? Maybe. But in this case, I'm not. I feel like in baseball, the one thing I feel like I always has is a grasp from being around it, growing up in it, and then being around these guys. I've talked to them personally on air, off air. When you go from being the dude in the minor leagues to now you're in the big leagues where you're no longer the dude, you got to be one of the guys. I mean, look at last year. Jordan Westbrook's even said it on here. It was the hardest thing for him to deal with was to figure that out in year 2 and this year. And he's done a tremendous job. Colton Cowser, that was really hard to sit for 6 days or sit for 4 games in a row and go there and not know what your role is. And I'm not saying that's fair to them. They got to live with it, but that's what you're going to be asked at the big league level. Not every player is going to be put in the lineup like a Gunnar Henderson or an Adley Rutschman, where it's just like, yep, I'm putting you out there no matter what. And you can't discredit some of these vets. You know, Ryan O'Hearn took a lot of bumps when he was in Kansas City, and now he's turned into such a polished left-handed bat. And Anthony Santander, right when everyone wants to pull their hair out, you get instantly reminded that this dude's about to have another 30-plus home run season, and he's averaged 30 homers and 90 RBIs. The production from veterans, it's hard to discredit because you know what they're going to do at the end of the day. So that's where I stand. Should we get to Gabe's question?
Yeah, where's that? I just had to.
Got it. Gabe, thank you.
Oh.
And if you're new to the channel, as always, hit that like and subscribe button. This is the Ryan Ripken Show channel. You're going to see later on Kevin and Zach Reacts, which is going to be pushed to another channel, but it is Ryan Ripken Media. But the Ryan Ripken Show is live every Monday and Thursday. So tomorrow we will be back at it. And as always, we're based in Baltimore. That's why you guys are tuning in for the Orioles. But when baseball season's coming to an end, we are going to hit football content just as hard and show you more what's happening in the Maryland region. Well, Gabe, let me get to your question. What if the Chicago White Sox gave us Fedde and Luis Robert for a few prospects and Cedric Mullins? Also, fun fact, my mom was Billy Ripken's prom date. Well, I'm sorry for your mom that she had to go with Uncle Bill. Just kidding, Uncle Bill, great dude, goofball in the family, no doubt about it. But for Fed and for Luis Robert, I mean, yeah. I mean, you get those guys, I'd be very interested. The one thing that worries me with Luis Robert is just his health. It's just he hasn't been able to play a full season consistently. When he's on the field, numbers don't lie. Dude's a stud. So I think that the Orioles would definitely explore that, and he's under team control, even though it's a $20 million hit, I think, per year or something like that for Luis Robert.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if Luis Robert and Fedde and you had to give up some prospects and Cedric, yeah, I bet you the Orioles would do that. But just like with Crochet, though, and I think Luis Robert's value is going to be even higher because he's a guy that's in his prime. He has a good discount, and if you think he's going to be good for 10 years, how do you value 10 years of a all-star type player? Yeah, that's where it is. But yeah, I got maybe Gabe in the future. You can tell me a good story or a horror story with my Uncle Bill with your mom at prom. Now my mind's starting to circulate or starting to ruminating on what could be happening here. I like the question.
He said, one, he lies to you, looking sharp in the poll. And then he says, second question for you. How close to the deadline are we going to get before making a move? Your prediction's what, Sunday?
I think we're going to see move. I thought Sunday would be a move day. I think that we're going to see some potentially this weekend. But here's the thing. This is not just an Orioles thing. Look around the league.
Yeah.
What, like Hunter Harvey going to the Royals last week was the move? There really hasn't been anything. And watch me say that and whammy, we're off to the races. But this isn't an Orioles thing. This isn't a Mike Elias where people just want to hate on Mike Elias. All the GMs out here, teams are going to try to get the best deal possible on both sides. And the ones that are selling are going to make sure that they don't feel like they're losing out on the deal. And this is the part of the year. And this is why so many teams are hesitant, because some people don't want to be too desperate. At the same time, you don't want to also give up a player for too less. But it's not an Orioles thing. I mean, look, this is why when people say go make a move when all the pitchers got hurt early in the season, well, you're mad at the Orioles. Well, guess what? You should be mad at the rest of Major League Baseball because only a few teams have made big moves. The only other big move I can think of, Zach, was Luis Arraez getting traded. Yeah. The only one I can think of early in the season. So,
yeah, and that was the Padres. The Padres run a team different than every other team in the league. The Padres literally do not care if it's close to the trade deadline, if it's early in the offseason, what it is. It seems like the Padres just do stuff that every other team's like, why did they do that? You know, they started off a little slow this year, had a rough 3 weeks. What did they say? Okay, we have to trade for Luis Arraez. Like they make these decisions. So that's very different than how most teams run it. Usually they like to see how things are going. The Padres, it just feels like for the past 5 years, it's just, let's go make a big splash anytime anything's slightly going down.
Yeah. Yep. And again, that's the Padres' philosophy. Yep. They're trying to do something, but also, just like a lot of teams, the most successful team in the last decade has been the Houston Astros. And everyone else is trying to figure out how to get to that next level, including a team like the San Diego Padres. I mean, even hell, as much as we've talked about the Yankees in the past, I keep bringing them up. Yankees haven't been to a World Series in 15 years, right? You know, the rest of I'm trying to look at the rest of the American League here. It's just really been so dominated by Houston. And in the NL side, you know, Dodgers are usual suspects to get in the dance. The Braves have played really well. Phillies, but there's been a little bit more of a rotation over there the last few years between multiple teams. In the AL, it's really been one constant team, and that's been the Houston Astros.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they've been the team to be. That's why we didn't give up on them earlier in this year. Everyone was like, hey, it's time, you know, to finally the Houston Astros are an afterthought. You know, it's the Rangers and the Mariners division, and look where we are again. The Houston Astros, love them or hate them, they just find a way. And that's another reason why the Baltimore Orioles are trying to build like them. And another reason why they're not going to just throw out top prospects just to throw out top prospects. Because look at this. People say, hey, don't hold on to every prospect because you can't, it's not sustainable. You know, they got to play somewhere eventually. The Astros have done a brilliant job of keeping the prospects they need while getting rid of the ones that they understand they don't need. And that's how you go into year, 10, 11 of being one of the best teams in baseball?
Yeah, is there a team, that's a great point. Is there a player that the Astros have gotten rid of recently? And I got to look at this, and I can get fact-checked on it. But do you sit there and you double-taked and went, damn, the Astros messed up. Man, they gave up their top guy. I can't name it right now. They wrote out George Springer. George Springer had his best days, obviously, in Houston. Carlos Correa didn't trade him early.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying. I think that's a great point that you just made. Yeah. You sometimes have good points here. And Justin, yeah, I'm moving. If I could, I got to work on some dance moves here. I'm trying to work on my squats too. I'm vibing here. I'm trying to get ready because I got to go on radio from 5:30 to 6:30 to talk about how the Marlins are becoming next year's juggernaut of a team.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Obviously, go. You know, the Marlins, it's the team of 2025 in the National League.
Yeah, the best team in baseball as of July 23rd.
Yeah, well, and also, by the way, Jesus Sanchez, who just annihilated the baseball yesterday, just absolutely destroyed the 2021 Norfolk Tides. Destroyed us. Really just took us behind the woodshed and just beat the absolute crap out of us. Yeah. Night in and night out. Actually, guy hit 800 versus us. He's like Bobby Wood Jr. over the last week.
We do have a little bit of, I don't want to call it breaking news, but a little news in the AL East. Alex Corey just signed a 3-year extension with the Boston Red Sox.
And you know what? Very, very well deserved here. And Danny Bananas, that's a electric logo there. Is that a banana with a beard?
Yes, it is. That is brilliant.
brilliant Danny Bananas. But Alex Cora deserves a ton of credit. He is a damn good manager. You can be all mad about the past things. He's a damn good manager for that Boston Red Sox team. And for a team that was supposed to be dead last, their pitching staff has been tremendous. Pitching coach, and I'm blanking on the name. It's erasing my mind. He has been maybe the coaching move of the offseason.
It's the Andrew Bailey?
Bailey, yeah.
Bailey. Former Athletics young rising star back in the early 2010s.
And Bailey's just been tremendous. Alex Cora is just a guy that seems to know how to press the right buttons and keep this team unified. Talking about a team that has a lot of belief, it's the Boston Red Sox. And they got some really good players. I mean, Rafael Devers, one of the top third basemen in the game. I know people can say offensively maybe, or sorry, defensively maybe not. Bat-wise, can't argue that. Dude is unbelievable. Jarren Duran, his story and his rise has been unbelievable. They're still doing this without Tristan Casas, so it's –
And with all their pitching injuries, the Red Sox have been decimated by injuries this year, and that's so impressive.
Yeah.
Well, Rolling Rock, I think you made a great point here. Sox are greatly overperforming. They were supposed to be dead last in this league, in this division, and then and that was before all the injuries. Then you stack on all the devastating injuries that they've had. It felt like at one point, people forget Trevor Story is supposed to be that shortstop, and Rafael has come out and just become a stud for them.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
All these guys are just stepping up, and you do have to give credit to the manager for that, because no matter how many times big guys went down, you lose Story, then you lose Casas, then Devers is missing time. Then it just kept on spiraling, and they never wavered.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is you talk about no excuses. And I just pulled a Kevin Stalker striker for Ken. Here he is. He's just lurking in the shadows, Zach, just like we talked about last night.
I will say earlier he asked if this was the start of the 24-hour stream. So
God, no, Kevin. And also, if you guys love your live streams, I'll tell you again, Kevin and Zach reacts after every Orioles game. They will be live for post game. We're going to move it off of this channel, but it's a part of Ryan Ripken Media. We're just going to make sure so it's not so cluttered, because everyone's like, where's Ryan? It's the Ryan Ripken Show or Ryan Ripken Media. No, this is going to be Kevin and Zach Reacts. I will have to jump on to make sure that they are not doing – well, Lord knows what they do sometimes. But if you want to have all the emotions, all the feels, and some very questionable prop work by Kevin, we're going to promote the hell out of that, and we have a great following with that. Now, to go back to – the Red Sox for one moment here. Yeah. You lose your starting shortstop first week of the season, or first 2 weeks, whatever it was. You have so many starting pitching injuries on top of it. Then Tyler O'Neill gets off to a good start. Then he goes down. Tristan Casas, your valuable piece, young player, goes down. That hurts your offense. Rafael Devers is banged up, but no one cares. Right? No one's going to feel sorry for you. And that's why when I look at a guy like Alex Cora, did a great job of keeping that group together, and they were able to keep it afloat. Now they are struggling a little bit as of recently, but this is a team now where the whole perception of their future has changed. And a big part of that to me is the culture that has been set in Boston. They got some really good pieces. Tanner Houck has just taken his game to another level, got to face him. It's a really good team, and this is going to be a really good division like it always is, and good for him. For a lot of people that wanted him out, he's staying put, and rightfully so. So, oh, sugar, running through the halls of random hotels. Yes, that's not endorsed by the Ryan Ripken Media Empire, but the Ryan Ripken Show, we are endorsing this. Mondays and Thursdays, we're doing it live. We're excited about what we have building here in the future. We got the Stateside Cup that's coming to Maryland, so we're going to go to the English Premier League soccer game next week. We have Ravens coverage out the wazoo. We're going to have some really in-depth coverage for football season, for baseball season, and we have so much. We're under construction in here, but we got a lot of things planned here. Cannot wait to show you guys what we're up to. I know we got to get out of here soon, though, because I actually got to make sure that Ollie's below me. He hasn't been feeling the best, Zach. So Got to take care of that.
This real quick. Are the Red Sox going to pull this off for Netflix?
I hope not. That'd be an amazing story. That'd be cinema. It'd be cinema. But for Baltimore fans, I hope not.
I hope not either. But it is funny. I keep forgetting that there is like this. Hoping the Orioles still go on, win it all. Boston has a nice little run, maybe grabs a wild card spot, makes it interesting. It's going to be a fantastic series. I'm talking like my favorite picture of 2024 is the Red Sox and Brewers. Benches cleared, and there was some animosity. There was a lot of pushing and shoving, and in the middle of all of it was the next Netflix film crew with the boom mics and everything. That's the stuff that we need. The devil works hard. Netflix works harder. They were like, it doesn't matter where the content is. We're going. They went on the field into the fight. No questions asked.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. You know what we need? Baseball needs that. You need more of these documentaries. And we're trying to bring more attention to the baseball world too and trying to get more insight. But when they can do that and have that access, it's one of one. And I'll tell you what, for the Red Sox, I do love the Durant story this year. And even with all the shirts he's wearing that he's not supposed to wear underneath, F him. Yeah, I mean, hell yeah, dude. Like, it's just, it's really cool to see. I can't wait to watch that in the future. Justin, appreciate you giving Joe a second for a Rocco cooking channel. Something's burning too.
Oh, that actually. I forgot Rocco just came on and cooked chicken an entire Kevin and Zach React.
That's tough for the program here. Yeah, we don't know about that, Justin, but
and then
we got some.
He was asking the chat how long he should put the chicken in the oven because he wasn't sure, and we were relying on the chat to get this right.
Yep, and also as we speak on this right now, again, the Orioles lineup's out. Connor Norby has not been activated or brought up. So just to give context, but the moves are Brian Baker option, Chase McDermott added, and Jonathan Heasley designated for assignment. Before we get out of here, last thing I wanted to
JP Crawford's out for the year or 4 to 6 weeks now with a finger fracture.
This Mariners team, man, it is sinking. They are sinking quick. And they got rid of Mike Bauman, and that's kind of what happens, man.
Maybe that's what did it. You know?
Might have been what did it. And shout out Big Mike. He picked up with the Giants here. And that's a guy, too. He's got some certain things he's got to work on consistency-wise. But another guy, potential down the road, just like a lot of players that we've talked about so far here. I'm not saying for this year, in the future. I wanted to touch.
Two of the three of his home parks in his career have just been beautiful stadiums.
Beautiful. Oh, my goodness. You kidding me? Well, actually, now San Francisco, then it'd be three. Beautiful stadiums.
Oh, yeah,
Seattle, San Fran, and Baltimore.
Yeah, I feel like Seattle's. I'm talking about the people like San Fran and Baltimore. Always, when you rank top stadiums, they're
up there. Yeah, they're up there.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing I'll say about this, and I got to get out of here, is we haven't heard much about the Angels. So that's the thing with the Angels, and this has been their dilemma for I don't even know how long now. They've come out and said in the past that they aren't going to sell Anderson and Estevez. That's their two biggest pieces. So a guy like Soriano, could be available, but they're making it seem like they're not. I love the Anderson Estevez. We talked about the Zach. I love those guys. I think that they would be very helpful. Anderson, lefty arm, has some control or team control after signing his deal, really found himself as a pitcher. And then Estevez has been a really, really good relief arm. Really a guy that you can trust in the situations to close out games or to be in late in games. So I'm not going to hold my breath on it. I'm not. So I think we'll have to wait and stay tuned. It's just been a lot of mishandlings here so much.
I had to put this on the screen. Aviator, this was sinking so fast. They're going to be the Submariners.
Submariners.
Yeah.
There you go.
You'll get the Mariners part in there.
Yeah, you're a good kid. All right. Well, and all of you guys are good kids out there. That's the highest highest
compliment you can get on the show.
Yes, you can. And also for our channel members, you can be a Rips Good Kid if you hit the join button. And if you want some more extensive, exclusive content. We got a lot more coming with the Holy Shirts and Pants now that we're figuring out all of our cameras and reconstructing in here. For our last time, we had Gordon, who made all those fantastic rugs. That was something where we went, wait a minute, we're figuring out how to really take our content to even more levels. So stay tuned for more of that. And you guys get my breakdowns first when I do that as well. So I think that's it. I appreciate you guys making sure my Wi-Fi works. Went 40 minutes longer than I would, but such great conversations. You guys rock. And if you don't mind, though, hit that like and subscribe on the way out. And if you want to check out the last episode of the Ryan Ripken Show, it was on Monday. It's on YouTube, but it's also on the audio, Spotify and Apple, wherever you get your podcast. But please help rate and review so we can figure out if you like it, you don't like it, but also it gets our name out there more. That's what we want to do, is to find the community, grow this great community that we have here. It's been great to see. Absolutely great to see. Yeah.
Yep.
How about that? I don't even know if you want to joke about that Mookie Betts to the Yankees. Don't joke about that.
That's not even funny.
Don't joke about that.
We'd never.
Well, you're gonna have 3 of the best
I was gonna say
outfielders in baseball.
I already lost love for one of my favorite players in Juan Soto when he got traded there. I can't do it for Mookie too. I loved watching Juan Soto play the game of baseball, and then he went to New York, and now every time he does this cool shit, I'm like, damn it, it's for the Yankees. So I can't have Mookie as well.
Mookie. Yeah, Mookie's a stud. Hey, Nick Moore, talking to you. We need to get Mookie on here. Shout out Nick Moore. We're getting Nick Moore to the Pro Bowl here for the Baltimore Ravens this season. They don't make long snappers like him, just built different. So, all right, guys, appreciate you. Hit that like and subscribe button on the way out. Have a day, have a night, and we'll see you live tomorrow for the Ryan Ripken Show. And you guys will see Zach and Kevin tonight for Kevin and Zach Reacts after the post-game live. See ya.
Peace out. See you guys tonight.